When I got up in the morning, I knew nothing about the planned demonstration against Dow. What was on my mind at that day was that the following day I was going to be having my very first 6-week exam at the university in my French literature class. At some point as I'm climbing up the hill, I hear some musical instruments. In front of the Commerce Building, there were a group of students, and they were chanting and they were walking around in a circle. I was absolutely not a protester that day. I felt angry at people who were against the war and antagonistic toward people who were actively protesting the war.
The decision was made to peacefully sit in and obstruct, block the interviews, stop them from happening, not allow Dow to recruit.
So we marched into the hallway. There were hundreds of us.
By that point, we were packed in so tightly, you literally couldn't move. No one thought about getting hurt. We were there in the spirit of the civil rights movement, nonviolent protest. You submit to arrest, you're making a personal commitment and a moral statement.
There was always this sense that the campus was a protected haven of free speech, apart from the rest of the city. But Chancellor Sewell was under enormous pressure, and he had no idea how to defuse the situation. He called the chief of the Madison Police for help. It was the first time the Madison Police had been brought onto the university campus.
I was specifically assigned to be in the Commerce hallway to maintain communication with the students. All of a sudden, there was an electric tension in the hallway. And a fellow named Billy Simons came up to me, and I know Billy from the time he was a freshman. He said, "Dean Sipperly, there's police out by the Carolyn Tower." And I saw the Madison police officers out there.
We didn't know what to expect. We just knew that there was only about 30 of us, and we were way outnumbered.
I was in my office working on my research when a number of students barged through the door and said, Professor Zeitlin, you've got to come. The police are massing outside of the Commerce Building. It looks like they're going to go in there and they're going to start beating up students. So I dash across the street to the Commerce Building, standing there, wearing helmets and carrying billy clubs, really prepared for war, were the police from the city of Madison. I dashed to Bascom Hall to see my senior colleague, the new chancellor of the University of Wisconsin, a man for whom I had the deepest respect, a close friendship, William Sewell. I dashed in there, I said, "Bill, you don't know what's happening, the police." He says, "I do know what's happening, and I can't do anything to stop it." I said, "But who called the police?" And he said, "I called the police." And that was a profound shock.
The university wanted us to go in and clear the building. And they didn't say how, they just said, "We want them removed." And we said, fine.
I see this man. He had a bullhorn, and he made this announcement that anyone who wanted to leave the Commerce Building should leave now, because in 2 minutes, the police were going to be entering the building, and they were going to be arresting anyone who was there. But the thing that happened was that I don't think even 10 or 20 seconds elapsed, when all of a sudden, the the police stormed the building, and I remember they had these billy clubs, and they were breaking the glass doors of the Commerce Building.
When the window went out, everything turned loose. They turned loose, we turned loose, and it was a matter of who's going to win.
A new sound emerged out of the commotion. It sounded like somebody breaking watermelons with a baseball bat. That was pretty frightening because we were trapped and this sound was approaching.
Just in an instant, they came at me and grabbed me. They just proceeded to alternatively club me. And somebody just whacked me on the base of the spine.
You either grab somebody, you hit somebody, you knock them down, and you step over. The line behind you picks that guy up, throws him back to the line behind, who takes him and throws him out the doors that we just came in. Literally, we had stacked up bodies, like cordwood, between the doors.
People were trying to get out. And as the people were trying to get out, they were beating people up with billy clubs, you know, as hard as they could. And you could hear the whack. "65 people were sent to the hospital. It was the most brutal and violent thing I had ever witnessed in my life up until then, and continues to be the most brutal and violent thing I have ever witnessed in my life.
These officers were pissed. I mean, there's no question that they wanted to inflict some damage. I mean, they were speaking through those clubs.
The authorities seemed not to be interested in arresting people as much as they were interested in attacking the demonstrators.
And it wasn't revenge on anything. If you got a student, you tried to make sure that he didn't return, that he didn't want to come back. And if that meant, you know, breaking his kneecap, that's what you did.
Police were yelling and they were smashing the kids. It was horrendous, you know, and I'm standing outside of the building, and then I was naive enough to say to them, I'm a member of the faculty, my name is Professor Maurice Zeitlin, and while I'm giving this silly speech to the police, a police officer swung at me, students jumped on the police officer, there was a melee, I was on the bottom of this, and I could actually hear the thud of club on body.
I saw a policeman raise his club, and I thought he was about to hit a student. And I couldn't help myself. I just grabbed him. He had a face mask on, and it wasn't until I was inches away from his face I realized he was a person that I had gone to high school with. And I said, Jerry, what are you doing? And he said to me the same thing, Jack, what are you doing?
All of a sudden, there were about 4,000 people watching the scene because people were either coming to class or leaving class. I remember people starting to scream, Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil.
In fact, that event, the police smashing students, politicized students who didn't even know the war was going on. But when they saw on their own campus their fellow students being smashed by police, it was natural for them to turn out. It was in their nature.
I mean, the crowd just seemed to swell. Bricks were coming, rocks were coming, spit, anything you could think of. I had never seen the hate that I saw on these kids' faces, you know, towards us.
It was a half a brick. Came flying over and hit me flush in the face and knocked me cold, knocked me out.
Everything was out of control. And somebody, and I'm not sure who, ordered up tear gas.
And all of a sudden, my eyes started stinging, and there was this odor, this funny smell.
And it went into classrooms, and, you know, there were professors stumbling out of buildings who had been tear gassed. My head was just spinning. I thought everything had changed. Everything was different now.